If there is any anime isekai god looking in on what Yuji is doing, on one hand, you could probably have a group of gods being very pleased with someone being as OP as he is and living out exactly what they want them to. But I have to imagine there's some isekai gods out there saying, we should probably nerf this boy because he's literally breaking our world. And I have to say, it's pretty glorious to see a man essentially go fishing and hunting, and to see the level of chaos he can cause with essentially what should be an end raid level boss for any other game. The fact of the matter is, they're not that strong when it comes to against water, these lesser fire dragons. So, sure, if you had a fire truck, if you had an ability that could shoot gallons of water per second, yes, you could easily take care of it. But as they quickly establish within moments of him talking to this poor woman who is just convinced like this man's either crazy or she's on drugs or she took something, because the idea of carrying that much water up is impossible. Well, don't worry, water magic's my specialty. No one's ever seen anything quite like that, so she's thinking he's absolutely crazy. Comes back with an entire stack of quests done, and it doesn't even seem like he's close to being over. I love the fact that this man, for being as broken as he is, it's never boring. It honestly, when you think of certain shows like One Punch Man, how could a show where a person can literally win every single fight with a single punch be entertaining? But it's comedy gold. They do great character moments and interactions. And a show like this where basically, from what we can see, he wins every fight, and even though they end the episode with essentially Godzilla waking up from the volcano, it still feels like, well, yes, you'll have to probably put up a bit more of a fight than launching a couple of water attacks or even a couple of ice attacks. All things considered, like, the man will make it to the end of this anime, but the way his slimes, the way Proud Wolf just in the background will be so dumbfounded at what he's seeing, or the numerous human characters who are like, this man's absolutely crazy, but then he comes back with the hull and you can't help but say, what the hell is wrong with this dude? But even Yuji, I mean, yes, he has a more dry sense of humor, and he doesn't crack as many jokes or doesn't explode in personality like we're typically used to, but the dude just clicks with me, man. I love how he's just so cool, calm, and collected, and the way he responds to things is the exact same way I would, which is probably why I like him so much, just because he feels perfectly normal for what I think someone who literally doesn't have to worry too much, like, oh, there's a cult out there, sure, I'll deal with that later, or oh, there's a giant-ass, like, apocalyptic level threat. Not the first time I've dealt with that. Look at the dragon in episode 3 or 4, whenever that happened, right? The dude's responding, I think, the way he should, give him what he wants this world to be for him, and what he truly has to worry about when push comes to shove. And to see just the way they can so casually spice up the cast, like introducing fire slimes, or red slimes, whatever you want to call them, right? There's no real difference between the color, but you can't help but say, like, that's absolutely adorable. I can't wait to see green slimes, hopefully, before the show's over. Maybe we'll discover them in the forest. And the fact that they all talk, it's not just like it's a visual change, like it's just cool, and then you just see like, wait a second, I thought he tamed one red slime. Why does he have 100 next to him now? And then they combine to be a fishing net, and they go fishing for a piranha who's supposed to be waiting at the surface for people. Was it down below because Yuji was just that strong and avoided him? Or is it because the cult's been doing a lot of crazy shit? Creatures are behaving in ways they shouldn't and essentially are going just wild, and we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of mystery of what's going on for the end goal, and I truly thought the whole idea of monster hunting would end probably in this episode, maybe next episode max. But based on what they're doing for the final stretch, it seems like more of like, okay, yes, we're building him armor, and what he currently has, well, makes his monsters faster and even amplifies. He's too strong for basically lesser fire dragons. Potentially a normal fire dragon might be enough in order to make him something that would withstand his power, but even that might not be enough, and apparently no one's ever beaten something like that. Of course, he'll be the first, but you can understand the skepticism of even a blacksmith who's just dumbfounded at what this man brings him within a day's amount of time, which an army wouldn't be able to do in a year's time. But it's going to be fun, right? Because we're going to deal with that probably next week. I mean, potentially that could carry over for 2 episodes, but there's a lot of, like, creatures running wild and then building up to finishing off the cult before he goes off and does his own adventure, as we then see. Are they going to give us season 2, or will it be a one-and-done show, right? But I think they're doing great with the pacing and the structuring, because even though this man doesn't want to get involved in anything, and he just wants to keep that low profile, I love how it's hilarious when he tells people that. Like, he'll give in 100 quests that should take an entire guild 10 years to do. He'll do it in a day's time and act like it's nothing special, or that he didn't do enough potentially. Or when he shows the blacksmith and his apprentice, like, what he's able to do with magic, slime shouldn't be able to do what he just did, so what in the actual hell and he walks away almost looking like a villain, but saying, yeah, let's just keep that on the down low. Even if this man wanted to tell someone, you literally just scared the living shit out of him to never cross you because you're doing shit that shouldn't be possible. That's what makes this show so charming, and I actually thought they had way more fun with the production in this episode, because if you look at the kind of Team Rocket style episode last week, there was definitely some struggling with the production, but like I said in the review last week, they used it to its comedy potential, so it's a very funny episode, so like 75% of the time. I thought the dips in production, they used it in clever ways to make it more funny. This episode was mostly like an action-packed episode, some funny faces, but it was a more exciting episode, all things considered, and I thought the production held on completely well from the start to the finish. There was a lot of fun. I like how they continue to play around the slimes in entertaining ways. It's not just like he has a couple of blobs next to him that shoot water for him. No, like, they do clever things. This episode, they turn them into a fishing net, right? It's pretty clever the way that they'll go about, like, they'll coat them in, like, some sort of magic so they can breathe underwater, and then there'll be, like, almost like a rope attached to them so they can go deep down into the ocean there and try to find this giant piranha-like fish, and then obviously he can pull them out with a fishing rod need be. There's a lot of clever tricks to this system, whether it's the way he goes about creating spells with his menu, he drags his finger around to connect all these different skills, the way the slimes and Proudwolf work in harmony with him. It's just a really fun show. And I like that rather than keeping a certain section of characters around every single episode, rather whatever village he's a part of, those characters will be relevant. But when he moves on to the next village, the only characters that will always be there will be Proudwolf and his slimes. And I think it works really well with keeping the cast refreshing. We'll continue to show just slice-of-life episodic adventures of a dude trying to keep that low-profile life, but really is doing the least amount of low-profiling in you could possibly imagine. And I think over the last year or so, with so many anime, whether it's Skeleton Knight in Another World to this one, characters trying to keep a low profile do anything but that, and I think it's becoming one of my more, anticipated / favorite things Isekai / fantasy shows can do, because the idea of someone thinking they're keeping a low profile but really are doing other than that is just something that really clicks with me on my comedy bone. And yeah, man, we're 2/3 of the way through this show right now, and I'm still very excited. I love watching this one. Still might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it clicks with me on that comedy level. I like Yuji's kind of dry sense of humor and obliviousness to just how powerful he is, and the slimes of Proudwolf and the cool fights and everything just keep it really entertaining for me. And as I've said in earlier videos, not everything needs to be this masterpiece that's trying to tell the most complex story. This is the type of stuff that I would just love to experiment in with a video game that allow me to push mechanics the same way Yuji's pushing them. So it just makes for a very fun show with a lot of personality, despite so many people trying to claim it has no personality when literally he's surrounded by so many. And as I've said, it's no different than any video game where your main character may not be the most character kind of carrying the show with his radiant personality or her radiant personality, but all the side characters keep it very, very fun and never dry or boring in the slightest. And I think they're doing a good job with the cultist plotline. I'm glad that it's lasting longer than just a couple of episodes, but more of a long-term vision for the season, so it'll be fun to see how they wrap it all up in the next few episodes here. But thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.